Commander Thale Everett stood stone still as Admiral Lell delivered the sentence. No explanation, no hearing. Just a cold, clinical order. You are hereby relieved of duty, effective immediately. The words cut through the air like steel. 15 years of service gone.
Just like that.
No accusations, no charges, just silence. Her crew watched from the flight deck of the USS Valiant, too stunned to speak. She carried nothing but a small duffel bag and one unmarked medal tucked deep into her pocket. They all knew better than to ask about Deepwater Station. Exactly 20 hours later, a Virginia-class submarine breached the surface of a restricted zone near the Okinawan Trench, defying every standing protocol. Its captain had only one demand. I will speak to no one except Commander Everett. Earlier that morning, the Valiant tore through the South China Sea under a gunmetal sky. Flight ops hummed with orchestrated chaos. F-35s prepped for patrol as colored jerseys dashed between catapults and cable lines. Commander Everett stood at the edge of the deck, the wind slapping her face, eyes locked on the horizon. But even the salt air couldn't mask what had been building for days. Whispers. Conversations halting the moment she approached. Nervous glances. Something was circling the ship, and she could feel it tightening around her. Then came the call. "Commander," said Lieutenant Commander Rafferty, his voice clipped, no trace of his usual ease. "Admiral Lell has arrived. He's requesting your presence."
Now.
Lell wasn't scheduled, and naval intelligence had arrived with him. She didn't need to be told what this was. After 8 years, the past had finally caught up. 2 Marines flanked the flag briefing room door. Inside, Admiral Lell stood facing the porthole, hands behind his back. Naval intelligence agents sat silently, their faces devoid of emotion. "Commander Everett," Lell said without turning. "You are relieved of duty. Immediately." "On what grounds, sir?" she asked, voice calm. "You may not ask," Lell replied coldly. She gave a sharp nod. "Understood." For a brief second, something flickered in Lell's eyes. Regret? But it vanished behind the mask of command. She packed in silence. Letters from her grandfather. A photo tucked behind her mirror. 4 officers standing on a submarine deck with no known insignia. Herself, Captain Zephyr Reed, Lieutenant Commander Voss, and Enan Chin. The Deepwater crew. She tucked the photo into her copy of The Hunt for Red October and slipped the unmarked medal into her pocket. One final act of quiet defiance. The walk through the carrier felt like a funeral procession. Some crew looked away. Others straightened their posture out of respect. She didn't rush. She wouldn't give them that satisfaction. As she reached the gangway, now in civilian clothes, the rain began to fall. An enlisted crewman leaned in under the guise of checking the mechanism. "Is it true," he whispered, "what they say about Deepwater Station?" She didn't answer, just walked away. At Yokosuka Naval Base, 16 hours later, the intelligence hunt had begun. Did Commander Everett ever speak of a Captain Zephyr Reed? Or Operation Deadwater? An agent asked Rafferty. "No," Rafferty replied sharply. "Whatever you think she did, you're wrong." But down in a secure comms center, another story was unfolding. "Sir," a comms tech said urgently, "we're receiving encrypted pings from a Cold War-era protocol, originating from an unidentified sub. The response is from shore." "Can you read it?"
Partially.
"Mentions Deadwater and a name. Read." "Log everything," the officer ordered. "Report only to Admiral Chen." Meanwhile, Admiral Lell was delivered a message he'd hoped never to hear. "The USS Paragrin has gone dark. No check-in. Possibly compromised." Lell's stomach sank. He stared out over the sea, remembering the files he'd buried, the secrets tethered to Everett and Reed, secrets dangerous enough to dismantle the Navy's command structure. "Find Everett," he said. But Thale was already gone. In a coastal fishing village, she sat in a bare room above a fish market. A shortwave radio crackled. "Trench 7 Echo, confirm receipt."
She picked up the mic.
"Confirmed."
"Paragrin."
"Valiant mission scrubbed. Moving to contingency." "Understood." "Surfacing window. 0700 hours. Prepare accordingly." She set the radio down, staring at the sea. 8 years of silence. That silence ended tomorrow. At Naval Command, alarms blared. A young officer burst into the briefing. "Sir, the Paragrin has surfaced." Lel stood still. "Where?" "Directly above the Okinawan Trench." On the satellite feed, the submarine sat like a black silhouette in forbidden waters. Standing on the tower was Captain Everett, arms crossed, unmoving. "He's broadcasting on open channels," the comms officer added. "He's refusing to speak with anyone except Commander Everett." Lel exhaled hard. He knew what came next. "Clear the room," he ordered. "Everyone except Captain Hernandez and Commander Wu." Once alone, Lel sat, his voice low. "What I'm about to tell you is classified above top secret. If this escalates, we're not just looking at defiance of command, but an international crisis." Within hours, Thale Everett sat in a small fishing boat off the coast, binoculars raised, watching U.S. Navy vessels converge around the surfaced USS Paragrin. The sleek black submarine floated defiantly, sunlight catching its hull as gray waves churned around it. 8 years, she murmured. 8 years of silence. Her thoughts drifted back to that classified mission. Then a lieutenant commander aboard the Paragrin, second in command to Captain Everett, they'd been tasked with overseeing routine deep-water acoustic tests, except nothing about them was routine. The sonar devices being deployed weren't just detection tools, they were experimental weapons capable of triggering undersea landslides and seismic shifts. In the wrong place, such a shift could spark tsunamis capable of devastating the Pacific Rim. When they raised alarms, command ordered them to stand down. The testing continued. Then came the critical moment. Seismic readings off the trench walls screamed imminent collapse. Reed gave the order. Thale shut down the devices using override codes, saving thousands, but violating direct orders. The punishment was swift. Reed kept his command, insulated by family ties. Thale was reassigned to surface duty, the mission buried under layers of classification. The crew scattered. Now, 8 years later, Paragrin had surfaced again, this time in restricted waters. The Navy rushed to intercept. A patrol boat challenged Thale's vessel. "Civilian vessel, this is U.S. Navy. You are in restricted waters. Turn back." Thale stood tall in the small boat. "Commander Thale Everett. Service number 87492. Captain Reed is expecting me." There was a pause. Then, "Stand by." Moments later, the voice returned. "Commander Everett, you are cleared to approach." She was transferred aboard. The sailors stared, some confused, some awed. The reputation had preceded her. On the Paragrin's deck, Reed waited. Megaphone in hand, he called out, "Commander Thale Everett. The Deadwater files are surfacing today. Authorization Trench 7 Echo." Thale climbed aboard. Reed's face was lined grim. "They resumed testing," he said. "But it's worse. 10 times the scale. They're targeting the deepest fault line." Below deck, the control room was tense. Familiar faces from deep-water station days met her gaze. "They all volunteered," Reed said. "They know the stakes." At the tactical console, sonar patterns flashed across the screen. "If the pattern continues," Reed explained, "it will trigger a collapse affecting the entire Western Pacific." "Tsunamis," Thale whispered. "Hundreds of thousands of lives. And the Chinese are listening. If this goes wrong, they'll assume it's an act of war." They had the data, geological analysis, sonar logs, seismic patterns. "We're prepared to bypass command," Reed said. "To send everything to allied navies and China. We need to stop this." Thale nodded. "Let's bring Deadwater into the light." Together, they initiated the broadcast. Outside, the Navy formed a steel perimeter. Storm clouds thickened. Thunder rumbled. 3 days later, the Pentagon war room buzzed. Seismic data. Fleet movement. Global tension. Dr. Amara Rashid, a geophysicist, spoke clearly. The pattern was man-made. Intentional. It would have caused disaster. "Could they have misinterpreted?" asked General Thornton. No, Rashid replied. Nature doesn't tune fault lines like an instrument. The Chinese confirmed the readings. Their tone alarmed. All eyes turned to Admiral Lel. Admiral, said the chairman. You knew. Explain. Lel stood. 8 years ago, Everett and Reed prevented disaster. They were silenced. When testing resumed, I removed Everett to both protect her and position her. I knew they would act when it mattered. At Pearl Harbor, the Paragrin crew sat trial. Charges: mutiny, breach of protocol, disobedience. Reed testified. We reported the danger. We were told to proceed. When sensors showed imminent collapse, I ordered Everett to shut it down.
She did.
Lives were saved. The prosecutor submitted declassified files. Evidence confirmed every word. Then Everett stood. My oath was to protect this nation. Sometimes the threat is internal. Institutions fail, but they can recover if enough people are willing to act. She held up the unmarked medal given to her in secret, a symbol of truth no one dared acknowledge. 3 weeks later, aboard the USS Roosevelt, the Secretary of the Navy addressed the ceremony. Captain Zephyr Reed and Commander Thale Everett prevented disaster and international war. By order of the President, they are reinstated, and Commander Everett is hereby promoted to captain. Applause thundered. Lel approached them quietly. You have a new command, he said. Environmental Security Task Force. Global oversight. Transparency. Reed nodded. If Everett is my XO. Already arranged. A month later, Everett stood on the Valiant's flight deck, this time as its commanding officer. Sailors saluted. No more whispers. Only respect. Reed joined her. Strange being back. Strange but right, she said. The ocean brings everything to the surface. Eventually, that afternoon, she addressed new officers. You'll face moments where orders and conscience collide. Integrity isn't about being perfect. It's about being whole. Some truths, like submarines, can only stay submerged so long. And when they surface, justice finds its level. The medal, once unmarked, now had a name: the Deadwater Commendation, a symbol for those who broke silence to save lives.